Okie doke. Hey everyone, this is Micah, also known as Duck from Cold Calculum. For those who don't know me, I play Destiny. I haven't posted on YouTube in a millennia, but I'm starting to get more into it for like side projects and just to hone my basic editing skills. So I figured today, for fun, since it's been a common request in my friend group, that I would do a little Dungeons and Raids tier list. For context, I don't really play Destiny much anymore. I'm actually doing a retrospective video right now that I've been working on for the time in which I played Destiny, which was from March of 2016 up through December of 2025. So I have not played the most recent DLC, that being Renegades. I have not gotten to experience the Equilibrium dungeon on my main account. I played it at a friend's house, but that's about my experience with it. So I will not be ranking Equilibrium. As for everything else, it's all fair game. I've completed each of the raids and dungeons at least once in my time playing Destiny, and many of the dungeons I've completed well over 100 times. For clarification, when I'm ranking these, I will be ranking them from the perspective of a Sherpa, because that's what I did when I played Destiny. I was mostly a casual player up until about 2020, and then I joined the Sherpa community, specifically on Dungeon Report, and just Sherpa the heck out of dungeons up until Final Shape. Obviously, I played the other raids and, stuff as they came out, but raiding was never the main focus I had in the game. The main focus I had in the game was always dungeons, which is abundantly clear if you look at my Dungeon Report account. The dungeons that released after Final Shape, I have limited exposure to. I've Sherpa'd a couple of players through the Sundered Doctrine dungeon, and I have soloed everything in Vesper's Host up to the final boss, but I have not completed the solo or the solo flawless in its entirety yet. So when I'm ranking those two dungeons, I will be ranking them primarily from my kind of casual play perspective. Anyways, let's get started. So I'm using Tier Maker over here. I'm sure people have seen videos from Dado and, As the Cross and others, but, this is just kind of my little take on it. So we'll start with Shattered Throne. The Erebus encounter. So, for clarification, Shattered Throne as a dungeon is mostly parkour. It's mostly platforming, jumping along. When I first tackled this dungeon, Eager Edge did not exist. The way Mountaintop functions or Alethanum functions did not exist. Mountaintop was in the game, but it didn't have the same kind of rocket boosting thing it has now. So, when I first played Erebus, it was a pretty slow encounter. It was the very first dungeon encounter we ever had. So I'm going to kind of rank this dungeon both from the present perspective and also from how it was at launch. So at launch, this entire dungeon was pretty cool. I loved the dark, I love the dark vibes to it, almost like Halloween. This whole idea of exploring the Ascendant Plane was really cool at the time. And the secret bosses for Wish Ender were fun. Erebus it's an okay encounter. It's nothing special, but the whole idea of like the random aspect of it, of like every time you go in, it's a different combination of bosses that you have to kill. I like that, especially since some encounters, there really is no RNG aspect. Or very little RNG aspect. It's just kind of the same deal in the beginning. So this one, I'm going to rank it probably about C tier. It's definitely not S tier. It's not like a super cool encounter that's really going to draw my interest. It's not even A or B tier. We could put it in B tier if we want to be nice, but we're being objective here. C tier, it's a decent encounter. It gets the job done. It's super fun when you're playing on Hunter or Warlock and have well skating or shatter skating respectively, because you can just zip across the map to different sections. If you get really good RNG with the way in which the bosses line up, it can be a really fun encounter. As for Titan, which is actually what I mainly played on, Eager Edge with Line Rampants and Alethanum, and this encounter goes by very quickly. And it's certainly not a challenging encounter by any means, but you know, it has its fun. Descent is a little weird. I have gotten this section. I mean, it's not an encounter. It's literally just a platforming section. But I've gotten this section down to the T in terms of the way I've ran it. You know, I just eager edge through the entire thing. I Alethanum bounce off the walls. The ogres section is kind of novel for its time, where you have the beams and you have to like dodge the ogres. But I haven't ran the ogre section, other than when I'm doing the Wishender quest for people. I haven't ran that ogre section the way you're supposed to run it in years. Because what I do with this section is there are little platforms on the left-hand side right as you enter the room, and you can just line rampant, jump one across the other all the way to the end and completely avoid the ogres altogether. Because you're out of range, so they won't shoot at you. So I'm going to put this in E. It's not terrible. I don't hate it. It's kind of a novelty, but it's an okay section. I mean, it has some fun when you're like, if you're speedrunning, for instance, like solo speedrunning, and you're just really trying to go as fast and as efficiently as possible, this encounter can be fun or not encounter, but this section can be fun to kind of get, you know, perfection on. And it's also very unforgiving if you mess up, because if you mess up, it's bottomless abysses pretty much everywhere you go. So you mess up, you fall off the map, you die, then you have to reset in the case of a solo flawless. Okay, Vorgith. I mean, Vorgith is cool. You know, I don't really have much to say about him. He's kind of a brain-dead encounter. I will say this encounter automatically loses points for the fact of when you're going through Descent, if you go too fast before the load zone on Vorgith, and you don't turn around and wait for the checkpoint to load in, you get soft-locked, and then you have to restart the entire dungeon to actually be able to kill him. Which is bullcrap, and I hate that every time it happens. That has ruined so many of my solo runs. So, Vorgith is automatically going actually below Erebus for that reason. I'm going to put him in D tier for now. He introduces the main mechanic of the dungeon. You know, that being the whole, like, you know, the Keeper of Petitions. I don't know why it says Boundless Hunger. He's called the Keeper of Petitions. I guess that's maybe the lore name for him. But the Keeper of Petitions encounter, I mean, he's okay. You know, go around, kill all 4 witches, get the buff, delete the boss. He has absolutely no health. Like, before Lament got nerfed, this guy was just Lament every time. I mean, obviously for speedrunners, it was 4th Horseman, but, like, for, you know, just Sherpa player like me, it was just Lament every time. After Lament got nerfed, I think I just ran Gallahorn. Like, unironically, I think I just ran Gallahorn with, like, double or triple reserves, and then once reserves were removed, I just ran Gallahorn with, like, double slug shotguns. He's really easy to kill, like solo. With the team, he's even easier to kill, but he's really easy to kill solo, so he's not really that interesting of an encounter. In fact, actually, we're gonna move him down to just high E tier, because, yeah, he's not that great. Ascent. Again, another novel kind of parkour section. If you're playing Warlock, like, I've watched speedruns. I have not done this myself because I'm not a Warlock main, but the whole skip you can do on this section with Heat Rises, where you just zip to the top of the elevator, or where you well skate off of a rock to send yourself sky high, I think is really cool. It's really satisfying to watch the speedrun for this section. And also, I will say this one kind of gets some brownie points for just anytime I'm doing a Sherpa of people that are completely brand new to Destiny, and we finish Vorgith and go to this section, it is hilarious hearing the new player's reaction of just how far I get ahead with my, you know, basic movement Titan setup that I have. Like, it is kind of that thing of like, oh, you know, I get some brownie points for the satisfying part. Or ego boosting part, I guess, technically. Anyways, we're actually going to put Ascent in D tier. I know, we're putting it above a boss. That's a little weird. But I get more enjoyment out of the whatever 2 minutes that I'm spending going through Ascent than I do out of the 3 minutes that I go through Vorgith. Okay, Dual Inkaru, or Inkaru. Meh. I mean, again, when it first came out, cool boss. Interesting idea of having the whole, like, Dreaming City curse and, this being, like, a boss that we've killed thousands of times, but we can never actually kill because of Savathun's curse and everything. From the gameplay perspective, when I first went for the solo flawless on this dungeon, the knights were a little problematic if you didn't time it right. But over time, as I had time to kind of perfect my runs and, like, my loadouts, this encounter, especially in final shape, became a little bit of a joke. Because on Hunter, it was just as simple as double slug all of the, all the dudes until they were dead, pick up all 3 buffs at once, and then golden gun the boss to the face, which wouldn't insta-kill her in final shape because they edited that, but it would get her to, like, a tiny sliver of health, and then you could just finish her off with a shotgun shell. When I played on Titan, though, it was literally pop my super, unload sunspots on top of the knights, and then shoot 2 Gallahorn shots at the ground in front of them, and all 3 of them would die instantly. And that took, like, when you combine that with the one-off super on Titan, whatever, Pyrogale gauntlets or whatnot, all 3 knights would be dead in less than 10 seconds of having done that combo. Pyrogale the ground, shoot 2 Gallahorn shots, gone. And then you had the rest of your Gallahorn to unload on the boss after you picked up all 3 buffs. So it's, it's a little brain dead of a boss once you get it down to a T. So I'm actually going to put this in E tier. Again, kind of similar to Vorgith, not really that interesting of an encounter in modern day. And really compared to other dungeons, I mean, this boss was, I don't know, it was a little weird. Wasn't really all that of a fan of it, to be honest. So, Dual Inkaru, E tier. Okay, we're on to Pit of Heresy. Necropolis. This intro section is boring. Really, really boring. I think the only fun I have on this section is alethanuming between the towers. And that's it. It's random each time, so, okay, mix things up a little bit. And it introduces the main mechanic, which is fine. But honestly, this section is way longer than it needs to be. And as a Titan main, not really all that interesting. Oh, and also, the bottom 2 towers, the one that looks like an Oreo cookie and the one that looks like an ice cream cone, those bottom 2 towers, if you run out of sword energy and go to the bridge nearby, kill the ogre, and wait for the knight to spawn in, I don't know why. I never did the research on YouTube for, like, what the reasoning is behind this or whatnot. Sometimes those knights will take an eternity to spawn in. Like, compared to the other towers, they will take absolute forever to spawn in. And I'm just sitting there tapping my foot being like, I'm losing time here. So, yeah, no. First F tier encounter. Boring, not fun, heavily time-gated, and the bugs make it even worse. Tunnels of Despair. I mean, this one's, it's a brain-dead encounter. I always start on the right side tunnel and go right, middle, left, taking the same route every single time. The ogres have never, even when I did my solo flawless, my first solo flawless for this dungeon, the ogres were never a problem with the route I took. If I mixed things up, maybe they could be a problem, but with the route I took, never an issue. And, I mean, in modern day, I would just run Banner of War, Banner of War Titan, melee one enemy, and I'm basically unkillable for the rest of the section. So, yeah, it's not as bad as Necropolis. It's actually a pretty fast section, but it's not an interesting section in either. Chamber of Suffering. I've seen people actually rank this one a lot higher than other dungeon encounters. When it first came out, I had a lot of fun in this section. It was, I think, the first dungeon encounter that posed a real threat when I was going for the solo flawless. At the time, I think I was running like Winter's Guile on Warlock or something. Whichever one, Karnstein Armlets. I was running Karnstein Armlets on Warlock with the Trinity Ghoul. And this was before Trinity Ghoul Catalyst was in the game, so it was just plain old Trinity Ghoul. Fun encounter. Nowadays, it's a little, again, it's a legacy dungeon. It's not exactly difficult. The enemy density when it first came out really posed a problem. In 2025, going into 2026, the enemy density in this encounter was probably lower than some Final Strike bosses. Like, I don't know. The acolytes, the only enemies that posed any sort of threat in this encounter were the Cursed Thrall, if you were too focused on the Boomer Knights and didn't notice them sneaking up on you. So I'm gonna place this in D tier. It has some nostalgia to it. It was the first real one to actually pose a challenge. But actually, we'll place it high D tier. But it's the same thing every time. There actually is no RNG to this encounter. Like, Erebus at least has some RNG to it. Chamber of Suffering, the first knight always spawns on the technically right side of the room when you're facing the totem. And then it always goes clockwise. And all you do is just kill knight, deposit, run over to middle spawn, wait for the knight in, kill, deposit. And making sure that you're never off the middle plate for more than like 20 seconds or it would wipe you. Which with Eager Edge is really easy to stay within that margin. Okay, the Harrow. No. Or, well, we'll place it above Tunnels of Sorrow or Dueling Karoo. It's okay. There is some RNG to it, like when you drop down, depending on where you land, depending on what combination of runes you have, this section can either go by very quickly or can take a bit. Like, if you get 2 on the outside and 1 in the middle, it's not, that's pretty kind of the normal routine. If you get 1 on the outside and both of the middle ones, it's a little longer just because you have to avoid the like spike traps. And I can't tell you the amount. This is probably the section where my Sherpas die the most. So when I'm running new lights through this dungeon, this is the section where they die the most. Just from falling off the map, hitting spike traps, missing a jump, whatever it may be. So, yeah, E tier is, I think, fair for it. Zulmak. Okay, this boss was actually really cool when he first came out. I had friends that were like, okay, it's just copy-paste Crota, except it's really not, because you don't use the relic to damage the boss or take down his shield. It's a culmination of all the mechanics introduced in the dungeon, which is the way that raids and dungeons should be. The final boss should kind of, hopefully, be a culmination of all the mechanics up until that point, or at least all the major ones. So, I think that this boss was actually pretty cool when he first came out. He was a cool guy. And it was also interesting because I met a guy on LFG at the time who was like basically Slayer of Zulmak or whatnot, who had like 1,000 clears of this dungeon. And when we ran through it, it was really fascinating watching that boss get deleted. In later years, the only reason you would play this dungeon, really, is if it was the Pinnacle Weekly for light leveling, or if you were farming armor rolls, because the boss was guaranteed to drop like a 61 or higher. So for casual players, it was at least a way to start getting like double 100, armor builds in like, Lightfall and Final Shape. After Edge of Fate came out, when they changed the way the armor works, this encounter became, as well as pretty much every other dungeon and raid encounter, became basically useless on the loot end. But on the game design end, I mean, I enjoy it. I would rank this encounter C tier. It's not really a cool boss aesthetic, but like the way that mechanics go and the way that DPS works, I think is fun, even if the boss does have a pretty low health pool, so he's really easy to one phase. Prophecy. Prophecy is actually one of my favorite dungeons. When this came out in Season of Arrivals, it was really hard. Or at least in my opinion, it was really hard. Like, me and my friends were not nearly as experienced as we are now at Dungeons and Raids. So this dungeon was the first dungeon that actually kind of felt like a raid in terms of difficulty. Heaven Hell. F tier. I don't even know why that's really on the tier list. It's the entrance. It introduces you to the main mechanic. It's time locked. I'll put it above Necropolis because there is a shortcut that you can do in the very first room to just immediately get to first encounter. But that's kind of the thing, is that means that this section takes all of 15 seconds if done right. So, yeah, it's not an encounter. It's not even really that fun. It's just, it exists. It's like ranking a door. You know, why would you? Okay, Failing Seku. Probably the most fun encounter in the dungeon, which might seem like a little bit of a hot take. Small arena, very easy to get pushed off, which makes it a very aggravating solo, but that's kind of the point of solos. They're meant to be challenging. Really introduces, or rather uses, the main mechanic well, I would say. The bosses, again, low health pool, pretty easy one phase, or two phase if something goes wrong. Not a lot of cover around the arena, but just enough to dodge the knights, and the knights don't really follow you around cover. Low enemy density, too. I wish there were actually more scions that spawned in, or at least more frequently spawned in, because ammo economy in this encounter during the first couple of years that it was out was a little weird. But nowadays, you kill everything with your abilities. You can save all of your heavy for DPS. So, yeah, I'm gonna put this guy in B tier. Again, not S tier, not anything insane, not even A tier, but a fun encounter, consistently fun. Wasteland. I don't know, man. I mean, I think when they introduced, like, the Dungeon Pantheon equivalent, whatever, before the end of Final Shape, this was, like, this mixed it up a little bit because they added in an actual boss that you had to kill. Before that, though, I mean, it had some cool lore implications, but not terribly interesting. I mean, I do like the kind of speediness of it, of going around and, like, finding the blights and just wiping them out. Like, I mean, I would just use, I think the kind of thing that everyone would use, which was Bastion, use the Bastion exotic to just wipe them out. Or Xenophage. Like, sometimes I would just throw on Xenophage and a full auto shotgun and would just go ham that way. So, it's an okay section. Hexahedron, aka Hell on Earth for solo flawlesses back in the day. Nowadays is pretty chill. Nowadays, I think the only time I die on this encounter is when I accidentally fall off the map for being a moron. I like the kind of inside-out Rubik's Cube, you know, hexahedron vibe of it. I also like the fact that you can just, you can know which sides Toland hasn't been on yet and just tackle those sides and complete the encounter faster. So there are ways to speed up the encounter than just taking the normal route. This is a mechanical encounter. It's basically a puzzle because the bosses at the end have no health. They're really just a trigger to end the encounter. But cool, kind of novel encounter. I'll say, I mean, for solo, it's actually pretty fun. So I'll put it high C tier. Again, S tier, you're not going to see me putting very many things in S tier. S tier is best of the best, all out, great experience out launch, even good experience now. A tier is, you know, not quite best of the best, but still really good, really consistent. Hexahedron, nowadays is kind of boring, especially when you run it with 3 players. Back in the day was really cool, and also during that kind of that Pantheon Dungeons event, I'm forgetting the name of it, but you know, that event, it was actually a really challenging encounter when played on Ultimatum difficulty. Dead Sea, when it first came out, really cool concept. We didn't have Sparrow Racing in the game. We hadn't had Sparrow Racing since Destiny 1. This was the closest thing we were ever going to get to Sparrow Racing inside of Destiny 2. Other than the Scourge of the Past second encounter. But, like, we didn't really have much else to go on. So this was a really cool section. I loved the idea of like just there being 3 tracks. Everyone hops on a different track, and you just do a 3, 2, 1. Whoever hits the bottom first wins. And, you know, don't cheat by hopping off your Sparrow and going in between the islands. Really, really fun kind of parkour section. On Ultimatum and everything else, they added in an actual timer that you had to hit, like, checkpoints to, like, get more time, which made it so much better. I loved this section during that event. Like, sure, it was still really easy if you knew the route, but it mixed things up. And when I first saw that timer pop up on my first clear on that difficulty, I was, like, really surprised and really go with my friends. So yeah, so I'd say kind of up there on C tier. You know, fun, mechanically a little bit interesting, or a good introduction. Not necessarily an encounter, so it doesn't get the same deal that it would get, but still, good section. Kel Echo, final boss. I have a video of my first solo flawless clear of this dungeon, which I did like a commentary of a few years ago now. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the solo flawless for this dungeon. This encounter was probably my make or break encounter for my runs, partly because I was actively providing commentary over my gameplay as I was playing. So like if I messed up and wiped, then I had to like go back. I literally could have probably done an overlay commentary, but I would reset my mental script and go back in and do the whole commentary over again while playing through. So I have fond memories of this encounter, and also Ultimatum difficulty was fun. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the mix-ups they added in DPS, allowing you to prolong DPS. So this encounter is really cool. This is actually the first, I think, S tier encounter for dungeons. Is it better than raid encounters? Probably not, but for dungeon encounters, the arena was cool, the boss was cool. I loved the RNG aspects to it. I loved the changes they made on Ultimatum difficulty, and I really enjoyed the solo flawless for this encounter. Okay, Grasp of Avarice. Rusted Gangplank. Actually, one of my favorite parkour sections out of any dungeon. I mean, it's pretty short, actually, but, like, once you get down all the lever combinations and eager edge swings, Alethanum jumps, everything, I actually really enjoy this section. Now, the entrance was a little slow, a little time-gated, but the rest of it, no, I thought was fun. So I'm actually going to play, I'm going to kind of, I'm going to place this above Ascent. Cool section, not bad, but just kind of average. Something that, like, every time I do a Sherpa, I'm not a speedrunner, mind you. I'm not a professional speedrunner like that. I play on controller. I don't even play on M&K. I just play on a regular default Xbox controller, so it's not like I have extra inputs or anything. But this encounter is this section is one of the sections where, like, I aim for perfection. When I'm teaching, it's a slow section that is actually a nice vibe. When I'm doing a carry, which, doesn't happen very often, but when I'm doing a carry, I love just seeing how fast I can go in this section. And I've never used out of bounds in my runs. It's not that I'm against out of bounds, I just genuinely don't have the brain cells to comprehend the routing for doing oobs. So I always just run it normally as fast as I can, with just eager edge and other stuff helping me out. So, cool little section. This guy, the ogre, I always mispronounce his name, Frizea, whatever, the Insatiable. Anyways, this dude, he's an okay introduction for the mechanics. I mean, is the arena just copy-paste Devil's Lair? Pretty much, yeah. So the arena's not anything special. The boss is an ogre who does the same things that an ogre does, down to throwing fireballs at you, for crying out loud. The mechanics are cool if you go fast. When I first ran this dungeon, this encounter was kind of a pushover. And mind you, that was in week 1. I went for the solo flawless like the Friday, the week it came out. So I don't know. I mean, the loot section is kind of novel, but I wasn't really feeling this encounter. You know, it's not as interesting. It's not as funny as the mess ups on the Haro, but it's cooler than Dueling Karoo. But would I much rather play the encounters in D tier? Yeah. Bomb defusal. Similar deal to Dead Sea. We don't have very many Sparrow racing type deals. It's a novel encounter. It's super easy once you get the hang of it. But, you know, I enjoy running it every single time, or almost every single time. Fallen Shields. I actually really like this encounter. I understand, you know, maybe for a speedrunner, it's very time-gated. But it's a big area. This is one of my favorite encounters in the game for showing off the creativity of Mountaintop and Alethanum. Now, if you're shatter skating or well skating, I'm sure you don't even need those. But on Titan, I don't have that. I got bubble skating, which literally uses up your bubble on the first time you do it, so it's useless. So I have to use Mountaintop and Alethanum if I don't want to have to go the cannon route. And no, I really enjoy this encounter. I think it's a consistent way of practicing your Mountaintop jumps, eager edge, strand, all that stuff. And when you're doing solo Sherpas or carries, you can go pretty fast on this section. And it's just a fun section to teach. It has really easy mechanics. So I'm ranking it at B tier. I'm actually going to put it above Failing Psycho. Captain Avarok. Okay, really fun. Well, mostly fun solo flawless the first time around. The only gripe I have for this encounter, really, is the main 2 ways I died during my solo flawless attempts was falling off the map into the water, or just touching the water at the wrong angle if you sat in the middle section, and the shank. The Vandal the Invisible Vandal I left alone. I never killed him in any of my runs. Other people could kill him, but I left him alone because he was a non-threat to me. The boss, you know, he could be a little dicey when you're depositing your treasure in the middle crystal, but honestly not that bad. But the main threat of the encounter was every time that shank respawned. I would literally, like, spend 2 of my Gallahorn shots or sleeper shots just to kill him faster because he's so darn tanky. Other than that, I enjoy it. I enjoy the treasure mechanic in this dungeon, and I think this encounter really used it in a creative way of like all these, you know, crates around the room. Very kind of an homage to the area in Taken King that you get up to when you're Arcade Stash, that mission, when you can find the reference to Master Chief in the pod on the side of the arena. That's kind of how I felt when I first entered this arena. I was like, oh no, what's inside these crates? Which was treasure, so I guess that was to be expected. But I enjoyed it, and the boss had a pretty decent health pool. Like, I mean, on Sherpas, it was a 2-phase, you know, a consistent 2, maybe 3-phase if things went wrong. It was usually not a 1-phase unless I was playing with friends. So, yeah. So, no, I'm putting him in A tier. He's not S tier. He's not like, would I enjoy him every single time he comes up? You know, really cool, really memorable experience. No, but, you know, he's definitely a fun encounter that, like, I enjoy running with fire teams most times that I run it. Mindscape. Okay, this is kind of a weird deal because, like, I really, even though it's literally 30 seconds, maybe a minute, I love the skip that you can do at the very first bell in the beginning. And I love watching speedrunners do it every time. I don't know why. There's something just super satisfying about it. From a mechanical standpoint, it's just parkour. It's just parkour. It introduces the bell mechanic. Cool. But when we're ranking it in terms of parkour sections, yeah, I'd say it trumps all of the parkour sections before it. So, no, I really enjoy Mindscape. Also, Duality, I'm a little rose-tinted glasses with Duality. I loved this dungeon when it came out. I played the hell out of this dungeon when it came out. I literally grinded to the top 5 Sherpas on this for this dungeon in Season of the Haunted on Dungeon Report. I stopped running dungeons, or running Sherpas of this dungeon after that season, so I slowly drifted. I think I'm like rank 13 or 14 nowadays. But I played this dungeon a lot, so I have rose-tinted glasses when looking at this dungeon, not gonna lie. I know some people hate this dungeon. I love it. Don't be mad at me. Nightmare of Galron. Similar deal. I really enjoyed this encounter. I enjoyed the kind of perfection kind of attitude that I would take to it when, like, because again, I don't do oobs, I don't really do glitches. So when I'm running a lot of these encounters, it's just running it the way it was designed to be ran as fast as I can, which is still slower than a speedrunner, but I enjoy it. I have fun with it. And I run pretty much the same loadout every time. Like, even to like in final shape, like from the moment this dungeon released all the way up to then, I run the Succession sniper rifle. I would run Lament for DPS. Nowadays, I don't run Lament because Lament is kind of garbage DPS, but, you know, like, I would run Lament for the longest time, and I would run my Solar Titan build and then my Banner of War build, and just kind of Speedy Gonzalez it. I think nowadays I've been using Ariana's Vow on this encounter, since Ariana's Vow with Radiant just consistently one-hits the Bellkeepers and everything else, so... But I enjoy it. It's a fun encounter. This is definitely an A-tier encounter. Not the coolest experience, but I enjoy it consistently. Descent. I don't know, man. This is just another parkour section. There's not really a whole lot special about it, man. There's some cool skips that you can do. In fact, actually, you can skip basically this entire parkour section. Like, if you have Eager Edge, you don't have to hit any of the levers in the beginning. You can just jump up and Eager Edge to the little slot in the wall. And then, yeah, you can literally phase through the floor. If you don't do any glitches with this, it's as simple as, 2-2-3, 2 rotation, 2 rotation, 3 rotation. Going, I want to say counterclockwise, if I recall correctly. So, it's the same thing every time. So, I don't know, we're putting this right in between Wasteland and Ascent, if I can get that correct. Okay, Vault, S tier. I love this encounter to death. It is my favorite mechanical encounter in the game, so I'm actually putting it above Kel Echo. I really enjoy running carries of this encounter. I enjoy teaching this encounter. Again, not a speedrunner. I'm a Titan main, but I really enjoy running solo flawless as this encounter. It's probably my favorite encounter in any dungeon ever. It has everything. It has a bunch of mechanics. It has, you know, DPS, not really big DPS, but, you know, still some DPS. It has high enemy density. You know, it's certainly, I'd say this encounter is the make or break for solo flawless runs. There's a lot of ways you can perfect your speed, your individual speed within the encounter by, instead of doing a double teleport, you know, going in, getting one standard coming out, and then going in again. Instead of doing that, you can just see how fast you can run through the inside and get both standards in one teleport. And I like that. I like that there's different ways you can play the encounter to make it easier or harder for yourself. So, it's a fun encounter. Like, even to this day, I think it's unchanged. Descent Further. It's novel. Again, it's kind of with, you know, Descent, you can skip a lot of it with Eager Edge. Again, like, you literally do not have to go inside the Nightmare Dimension on this parkour section. You do not have to touch a single bell on this parkour section. If you have Eager Edge, you can just immediately, Eager Edge and Mountaintop, you can just immediately go to the top of the room. Or, if you have a freaking Strand Grenade, you don't even need Mountaintop. If you just have a Grapple Grenade, you can grapple to the top of the room. Done. Parkour section over. So, like, yeah, it's okay. Nightmare of Keitel. Really fun Sherpa. Really not fun solo. I did not enjoy the solo flawless for this encounter. Was it challenging? Yes. Was the main way I fell off the map due to me accidentally damaging a bell and falling through the floor? Yes. How is that possible? I don't know. But it just, it wasn't for me. Like, I think it was also the fact that, it's not even like, for a while, when loot drops weren't dropping on the side of your screen and they would actually, like, fall out of the chest, if you beat the dungeon, for a while, there would be that glitch where you would stay inside the nightmare dimension and wouldn't actually teleport back, and then you would have to go to the tower to get your loot, so you didn't even get the hype of knowing whether or not you got the Heart Shadow exotic, which was a little rough. And also DPS numbers, if you got that glitch, wouldn't display at the end, which was a bit, sad for like, oh, I wanted to beat my friends in DPS. No, you couldn't see your DPS numbers if you got the teleportation glitch at the end for a while. So, I don't know. That kind of ruined a lot of the encounter hype for me. Also, you're fighting Keitel. Who cares? It's a Cabal lady who stomps the floor and does no other damage to you. This encounter was like, I don't know. It's like Hexahedron. It's like, would I play it? Am I willing to play it again? Yeah. Do I hate it? No. Is it not really for me personally? Yeah. It's kind of that middle ground sort of encounter. So, I'll actually put it below Erebus. Okay, Reestablish Power. When it first came out, really, really fun. Over time, okay. On Ultimatum difficulty, hell. Absolute hell on Ultimatum. I did not have fun with this encounter as time went on. But, it's just kind of it's an easy little deal. We're putting a lot of stuff in D tier. We haven't actually touched E tier in a while. We're keeping it in D tier. It's above Wasteland. Spire Ascent. This is kind of the opposite deal. It was really not that interesting when it first came out. It was a little speedy. If you ran Xenophage, it was kind of a, Xenophage and a trace rifle. It was kind of a joke. On Ultimatum difficulty, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the challenge of it. My friends who didn't run dungeons as often, we ended up running it together. And we actually had a real struggle with figuring out our team dynamic when running this section, which really helped us with, like, kind of influencing our approach to the other encounters. But, no, I had a lot of fun with this. I'm gonna... I don't know, it's... your main cause of death is falling off the map, but, which I know some people don't like, but I'm actually... This is Destiny. It's a platformer. It's a PvE shooter platformer game. So I think falling off the map being a common cause of death is not that big of a deal. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna put it up here. I enjoy it. It's relatively consistently fun. Is it special? No, but it's fun. Akalos, aka how many times can we copy paste a boss other than Taniks? This was the strike boss in the Echo Chamber in Destiny 1. It was one of the bosses in the Garden of Salvation raid. Whatever, Consecrated Mind. It was a rinse-repeat boss in the Vexcalibur, I think it was the Vexcalibur mission. Maybe it was a different mission. And, I mean, it came out before Vexcalibur, but, whatever. It was repeated again in Vexcalibur, and it's here. Not that interesting. In fact, actually, I really don't enjoy this encounter. When it first came out, the boss health pool for this guy was insanity. Like, solo, I think my solo flawless, which I got more as time went on, but, like, my first solo of this dungeon was, like, a 6 phase on this boss, and it sucked. I actually hated this boss more than the Ghost of the Deep final boss. And the Ghost of the Deep final boss, I had to do 8 damage phases to kill. So yeah, no, F tier. I really don't like anything about this encounter, and it's a boss that has been repeated who knows how many times. Borderline the same amount as Taniks. Okay, Descent section. Meh. I don't know. I don't even know where to put this. I'm just gonna put it right up here with the rest. It's D tier. It's novel. It was a little more interesting on ultimatum mode, but other than that, meh. Actually, I actually no, we're putting it in E tier. Okay, Percy's kind of similar deal to Akelos, except not a repeat. Just a giant chicken man. I did like the mechanics in this encounter. The solo was very difficult, but very fun. Ultimatum difficulty, I think this boss was actually the dungeon that I had the most amount of trouble on, because I wasn't really paying attention to the community strategies at the time. If I had known that using 1000 voices basically stun-locked this boss in ultimatum mode, I probably would have had a lot more fun with it. But since I wasn't paying attention to YouTube at the time, my friends and I were using rockets and Galahorn, and yeah, this guy was tough. I'm gonna say B tier. I enjoy the boss design. I enjoy the mechanics, and other than that, I do enjoy just kind of playing around with this encounter. The only C tier, because the only thing I will say, the dungeon itself, garbage loot pool, horrible loot pool. Unless you were a Last Word fan and really wanted that legendary whatever bolt action scout rifle, this dungeon had like one of the worst loot pools out of any dungeon in the game. So that kind of influences actually this encounter, because like there was no reason to run this encounter other than for your own personal enjoyment, and that's not really for me. Okay, let's see. Ghost of the Deep, my second favorite dungeon in the game. So Duality is my first favorite. Duality is my all-time favorite dungeon. This may be weird to hear, but Ghost of the Deep is my second favorite. I really enjoyed everything there was about this dungeon. I enjoyed us returning to Titan. Titan was one of my favorite planet locations in year 1 of Destiny 2. I enjoy the whole idea of us going underwater. I know some people really don't like the delve mechanic of, like, you know, having to do air bubbles and all that jazz. I was pretty okay with it. Other than that, the whole idea of us rushing to stop Oryx, one of my all-time favorite Destiny villains, from being resurrected, cool idea, on the lore end. So, Hive Ritual. I actually really enjoy this encounter. I really enjoy the mechanic it introduced. It's a big, cool area. There's some secrets going around. It's a Sparrow section in a way. I had a lot of fun with this entrance. Is it a little long? Yes. The fact that you have to do, I think it was 3 or 4 rotations to open the door, I think was a little much. If it had been like 2 or 3, it would have been better. So that's the only gripe I have with this encounter. It's just the time gating. It's a little long. But still, I enjoy this encounter. I think it's fun. Arcology. Probably one of my favorite parkour sections in the game. Not from a speed mechanic. I mean, you can't really use Mountaintop or Eager Edge throughout most of it because you're in water. But just from a cool factor, going deeper and deeper into the ocean, into this, whatever, sunken hive ship, I really enjoyed that. I thought it had some really cool, like, landscape design and whatnot. So, we're going to put this in C tier. You know, I think that, like, it goes beyond a lot of these. Ekthar, Shield of Savathun. I really love the enemy density in this encounter. It has probably, I think, the highest enemy density of any encounter in the game up until that point. Definitely higher than Chamber of Suffering. Ekthar, the enemy density in Ekthar is what Chamber of Suffering should have been, in my personal opinion. Now, do you need a boss running around the room throwing suppressor grenades at you? No, but the amount of enemies that spawn in and continue to spawn in over the course of the encounter is what Chamber of Suffering should have been. So I'm putting this in C tier. I'm actually going to put it high C tier. similar deal. I wasn't really into the loot of this dungeon like Percy's, but I really enjoyed the enemy density. I enjoyed the mechanics. I enjoyed the speed of it all. The only thing I didn't like about it was DPS, when it first came out, felt both way too short and way too difficult. I can't tell you the amount of times I started DPS just to get insta-killed by the dude's throwing shield. Like, without Well of Radiance or a Sunspot down right on top of me, I would consistently get, at 100 resilience, I would consistently get one shot by the dude's, like, Sentinel shield, which I thought was a little bullcrap. That's the only gripe I really have about that encounter. Wreckage, yeah. I don't really, there was nothing special about this section. It's really not that interesting. Is it more bearable than the rest of these? Yeah, but nothing special. This guy, Nakru, the final boss, or Nakru, whatever you want to call him. One of my favorite solo flawless experiences. Again, really cool encounter design, really cool mechanics, culmination of everything we had up to that point. Really difficult, high enemy density. It kept me on my toes. DPS was just long enough. It was also one of the only dungeon encounters where, like, it's true range DPS. You could not really use swords on this encounter. A lot of bosses in Destiny 2 have been swords. Swords have been kind of like one of the go-to DPS types for dungeon bosses. This guy made that impossible. He flipped the script on that. So I am going to put him in S tier. I understand that some people don't like this boss because when he first came out, the first year that he was out effectively, you know, I wasn't there at the day one or week one of this dungeon, but I was there during the end of Lightfall when he was still difficult. This boss had an insanely high health pool. He took consistently, I'd say, for your average first-time solo flawless and you're not like a 1% speedrunner, this boss was at least 6 to 8 damage phases. Like, it was a long fight. I think my successful attempt at this boss took about 40 minutes, like half of my solo flawless run. But I still enjoyed it. I think once you knock that kind of one thing out of the way, I really like the encounter design. And I also like that this is the first dungeon boss in Destiny 2 that felt like a raid. Calico was cool. Calico was kind of teetering on that point. But Nakru was the first boss that legitimately made me hopeful for dungeons being real raid-like experiences. So, yeah, really like this. In fact, you're going above Calico. Okay, Rathiel, First Knight of Fikrul. I don't really remember a whole lot about this boss. I mean, I remember the mechanics, but, like, he's an introductory boss. And he's just a copy-paste of every Scorn Captain final boss there was. I mean, whatever the Corrupted Lair mission in Tangled Shore back in Forsaken. He's just a copy-paste of that guy. Other than that, I mean, I liked the cage idea. I also didn't like the cage idea. I thought the cage idea was extremely aggravating when I was first learning the solo, until I realized that you could just throw a strand ball at the middle eye and it would destroy the other two. But yeah, no, this encounter is, it's okay. Lots of C tier. In fact, yeah, it's an unimaginative encounter. So actually, we're going to put you right here. D tier. Prison Escape. I spent like 25, maybe 30 minutes on this on day one. People were a little confused by it. It wasn't that interesting. The parkour leading up to Locust, after Prison Escape, that was okay. I enjoyed the mazes, and I enjoyed stuff like that. Some of the skips that you could do with Mountaintop to get immediately up to Locust were cool. So that gives it a little bit more kind of brownie points. So, I don't know. It wasn't as cool as Mindscape or Rusted Gangplank to me, but it's an okay section. Locust Wailing Grief. I really don't like this boss. to be frank. The mechanics are okay. It's the same as the rest of the dungeon. Sure, it's a D&D themed dungeon. I love D&D, so you think I would like this guy because we're fighting an ogre. I don't like ogres that push you. This guy would push you at Mach 10 off the map. If you jumped and used your jump ability, whether it be your lift or anything else, I mean, hunters were kind of okay because you don't have momentum with yours. But like, if you were a warlock or titan and you decided, oh, I'm going to use my jump ability while going for the solo on this encounter, you better not be anywhere near the edge of the map or you're not getting back. And I did not like that. That was like the main reason I died in my runs was just fall. I mean, I understand. I keep telling people like, yeah, falling off the map is just a part of destiny. This guy was the one guy that made me realize just how much suffering other people have with that. F tier. Higher than you. Higher than Akalos. Still didn't enjoy it. Not a fun encounter. Cool DPS little thing with the pillars. So I guess actually I'll put you at the top of F tier if that really means anything. But not fun. Mountain ascent. It's okay. It's okay. I'd say it's like right here. It's just above duality, just below ascent. Actually no, I like the fact that you can just skip right to the boss if you do it right. So no, we're putting it right there. It wasn't for me. I mean, I don't really rank it highly because I don't play Warlord's Ruin often. I didn't play it often at all. I went for the solo on it. I never went for the solo flawless. And I didn't really do Sherpas of this dungeon. I did like maybe 4 or 5 Sherpas, and that was it. I thought it was a really cool first time play. I found with replay, I didn't really find it that interesting. The final boss was cool on that Dungeon Pantheon event. But that was kind of it. That's the extent of it. Other than that, not really for me. Heffin's Vengeance. Okay, this is the second instance of us fighting a dragon inside of Destiny 2 lore-wise. So, I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. I also liked that it was pretty much the closest thing we were going to get to a dungeon equivalent of Riven. The idea of like working your way up to the final DPS area and then kind of repeating. Enemy density in this encounter was actually pretty okay. The mechanics were relatively okay. I didn't like the third tier right before you go to the DPS tier. The third tier, that area was kind of a little aggravating to play in. But other than that, I like the fact that you could go back to lower sections if you wanted to restock an ammo. On ultimatum difficulty, he was a little bit of a pain in the ass. Just because the boss would two-shot you if you had anything less than 100 resilience. The boss would literally 2 projectiles from his mouth and you're dead. But the main threat in the encounter were the Scions. The Scions would melt you in this section. Or not the Scions, the sniper dudes. The Taken sniper dudes would just destroy you in this section. I think actually they might have been Master they were Overload champions, I want to say. But yeah, other than that, really cool first time experience. Replayability factor, not really for me, but I enjoyed it. So we're gonna put that kind of up here, up in A tier, where it's like, would I play it again that often? I mean, probably not, but I enjoyed it each time I played it. And a really fun first-time experience. In fact, we're going to put it top of A tier. Okay. Oh, yeah, this is where we get into not as clear for me, because I only played these, like, twice. And I never actually completed, this one. I never actually completed Vesper's Host. Activation. When I first did Activation... Or is it Activation? Yeah. When I first did Activation, my friend and I both had never played the dungeon. He had played the dungeon twice. But I had never played the dungeon before, and I wanted to try going for the solo flawless on the first attempt. Which, looking back on things, was a really bad idea. And I think a lot of my friends kind of told me it was a bad idea, but I was dumb and was like, yeah, I'm going to go for it. So solo flawless first attempt, which meant if I died, I would restart the dungeon from scratch entirely. Not from encounter. If I died, I would treat it like a solo flawless and go back. So I learned the dungeon through solo flawless attempts, which was, for this encounter, was actually kind of counterintuitive because the only thing before this was the entrance, and the entrance was really boring. So, not the best play. Anyways, I love this encounter. I love the speed of it. I love the intensity. Enemy density is high. The boss at the end really shakes things up. You have to be super quick. I just like everything there is about this encounter. I think the only gripe I had, which wasn't really a gripe, was the Shanks with their little stasis fields around them. If I accidentally got nicked by one of those while jumping through the air, then I would fall off the map. But that is easily avoidable. Just kill the Shank before you start running. So no, I really like this encounter. I'd actually say it's not as good as Vault, but when you're going through it for the first time, like I was, and I was going through it solo, I wasn't going through it with a fire team. So I don't have. Thing about this dungeon, my experience of this dungeon is entirely solo. I have not played this dungeon with a fire team. I have learned everything up to Corrupted Puppeteer entirely through solo strats, blind. I did not use YouTube to figure it out. I did not use anything to figure it out. I just went through it. I had a friend at the time who had already played the dungeon, and he and I did a little competition of he was trying to go for his first ever solo dungeon. He had never gotten a solo dungeon previously. This was going to be his first. So we did a little thing of kind of a race. Who could get through each of the encounters? Like him just learning it as a solo first-timer, and me as someone who's experienced in solo flawless dungeons, learning it blind. And that added an extra layer of fun to it that really made this an enjoyable encounter. In fact, I'm putting it in S tier. I know it's unique. I know it's not for everyone else. But my experience of going for the solo flawless made this encounter so much more fun. Infiltration. Neat. It's okay. Move bomb one location, next location. Cool. I'm sure with a team it's a brain dead encounter. Solo, it was actually kind of fun to figure out. So, rose-tinted glasses and all, don't hate me. B tier. Not as cool as Hive Ritual, still a fun section. Rainix, or Unified, whatever, Servitor guy. Kind of a little aggravating. Was the first time I realized that this dungeon was a step up from all previous dungeons mechanically. Like, it really was a raid. It was Deepstone Crypt, except a dungeon. I was surprised by the boss. He hit like a truck. The mechanics were interesting. I was very confused on how I was supposed to start DPS when I was first learning. Like, I was like, okay, I do 1 cycle, 2 cycles, 3 cycles, what do I do? I ran in circles for like a good hour before I figured out exactly what I had to do to start DPS. Not gonna lie. But I enjoyed it. It was a cool encounter. You know, I thought it was really unique. Especially for a servitor, with how many servitor bosses we've gotten over the years. This one was actually pretty cool. So yeah, I'm gonna put it B tier. I'm actually gonna put it next to Failing Secco. Next to Failing Secco. I enjoyed it. Corrupted Puppeteer. I never completed this boss. I've done DPS phases of this boss, but I've never actually gotten a clear of it because I've only ever done solo attempts, and I didn't get lucky enough on my solo flawless attempts. I kept dying. I really enjoyed it. I thought the nuke mechanic, the way that they used the nuke mechanic was really cool, especially for the way it's used during DPS to kind of extend things. I love, like, I know it's just a Atrax 1 repeat in a way, but I love the Atrax design in this encounter. I love the lore implications behind this thing, the ambiance of the arena with the portal behind, or the singularity behind whatever it was, sending out electric pulse waves. All of it was really cool. I had the way that the electric pulses were kind of gave me Godzilla vibes. or maybe whatever the three-headed Hydra from Godzilla was. You know, I all around, I just enjoyed this encounter. I think it's easily an S tier encounter. I never completed it, so I can't speak to all of its things, but I thought it was really fun. Definitely up there on the bosses list. Solve the riddle. It was okay. Kind of a novelty. You know, for Sunder Doctrine introductory encounter, I thought it was okay. You know, I didn't think it was anything special. When it first came out, I did go for the week 1 solo flawless on this encounter. I did not get it, even remotely. I got stuck on Zoetic's lock set and never got past it. At least not on week 1. So Solve the Riddle was cool, but not something I would like to replay that often. So, C tier. In fact, actually, yeah, no, it was cool. It's above D tier, but it's not really a replayable thing. Navigate the maze. Yeah, it was a parkour section. Once you figured out the route for it, it wasn't really that unique. I think the only thing that posed any sort of challenge, even remotely, on the first time playthrough, was timing, really, on the little kind of Indiana Jones boulders going by. But meh, not really for me. So I'm gonna put this in D tier. Again, E tier is very special. E tier, you have to be like particularly boring in my eyes to go in E tier. Zoetic's lock set. I didn't enjoy this encounter. It had probably the most interesting mechanics out of any dungeon ever in the confusing aspect. It took me a real while to figure out exactly how this encounter worked. Again, I approached it from the same way I approached the corrupted puppeteer, whatever, you know, dungeon, which was, I first went for the solo. I didn't get the solo, but I soloed everything up to the final boss. I first went for the solo blind, figured out all of the encounter mechanics solo, not as a fire team. So Zoetic was a bit weird because I spent 10 hours, or no, that's an exaggeration. I spent like, I'd say 4 to 6 hours on this encounter trying to figure it out. And it was a real doozy, like trying to figure out the mechanics for it. Cool encounter. I love the Sauron kind of vibes that, you know, these shriekers give. Other than that, though, I thought it was a bit long, especially solo. I thought it was a really long encounter. The health pool was a bit insane, which kind of brought down the vibes for me, honestly. So, I'm going to place this C tier. Cool design. Would I replay it? No. Would it be a Friday night dungeon night? Definitely not. Do I enjoy teaching other people it? No. But it gets the cool factor. Kara of the Erased. I thought this guy was pretty cool. I mean, I figured out the mechanics for him solo and then ended up giving up and just using LFG to actually complete it. But I found a cool team. We had some fun. Mechanics were pretty cool. Kind of culmination plus more. You know, there were additional mechanics in here that were really cool. The boss is just a giant scion. Yay. I mean, he's not a scion. Obviously, he's the new race of enemy. But he was just basically a glorified giant scion. But everything else about the encounter, I really enjoyed. So I'd say it would be an encounter I would have no problem replaying. It's a fun encounter. I would replay it. I actually would enjoy teaching Sherpas, you know, this encounter. I probably wouldn't enjoy doing carries, but you know, I find it fun. Okay, now we're getting into raids. I'm gonna pause the recording here and pick up in a second just so that I can see where we're at. But we're about to get into raids in a second here. Just a sec.